back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, coming to you live from Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Former President Obasanjo tackles President Buhari on the state of the nation, asks him not to seek re-election in 2019, citing loss of direction by the administration. Presidency APC declined comment on former President Obasanjo's statement as opposition PDP and lawmakers weigh in on the matter. Police release members of the Bring Back Our Girls group earlier arrested for a planned protest to the presidential villa. Group says it will not be intimidated. And thousands flee clashes between Turkish-led forces and Kurdish fighters in northwestern Syria. And just a quick reminder that for more on our top stories and others, please visit our website, channelstv.com and youtube.com/channelsweb. And log on to m.channelstv.com to watch us on your mobile device, or download the Channels TV app for Android, iOS and Windows devices from their respective stores. The Channels TV and Channels 24 app will give you access to news and updates. You also have access to the Eyewitness feature, with which you can share those pictures, videos or news of happenings around you. Just install the app, then tap and swipe to reveal the menu, and then follow the instructions. Let's just share with you some of those pictures that were sent in to us. We begin with this one from Oyebode local government area of River State, showing a gate which our Eyewitness reporter says leads to the compound of a power holding company there. He says the youths in the area are demanding to be connected to the Afam power station owing to low electricity supply, and they also insist on the distribution of a prepaid meter to stop estimated bills. The next image is from the Lagos-Abeokuta Expressway, showing a truck conveying secondary school students. Our Eyewitness reporter describes this as a dangerous act and wants it to be discouraged. And here's a picture from Agbulegba area of Lagos State showing a damaged bridge. Our Eyewitness reporter wants this fixed as soon as possible before it causes harm to motorists and pedestrians. Now let's end with this picture from Ibadan, the Oyo State capital, showing queues in the filling station. Our Eyewitness reporter wants the government to address this situation quickly. Do send us some more pictures when you can. Now let's get some more perspective on the statement by Chief Obasanjo to President Muhammadu Buhari. I'm now being joined by a professor of international law, Professor Akin Oyebode. Thank you so much, Prof, for joining us on the News at 10.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, busy day with everybody reading that statement. I'm sure you've read the statement as well. Your first reaction?
Well, I think it's typical Dr. Obasanjo throwing his hat into the ring, because it's not the first time he's writing letters to incumbents in terms of problems confronting the nation. I think the nation owes a debt of gratitude to Obasanjo for speaking truth to power, as we say. And whatever one might say, somebody needs to tell the Hallelujah chorus surrounding President Buhari that the emperor's so-called new clothes are not all that new. And Obasanjo had the guts to say the emperor is actually naked. So quite sincerely, I think we have to applaud Chief Obasanjo for his intervention. I think it's the most interesting story in the country since the beginning of this year.
And, you know, looking at the current administration, there's been a lot of criticism from security to national unity. You have the economy as well. Before we're looking at the wordings of you know, the statement, will this shift focus to what former President Obasanjo was speaking about? Do you think that is going to switch things up a bit?
Well, in a way, yes, because people are discussing 2019. And I read General Obasanjo's statement, and he seems to have entered a caveat about the choices facing the country in 2019. I must point out, though, that he's not the first person to advise the incumbent president not to seek a second term. I think Cardinal Olubumi Okoje, not too long ago, said Buhari should not make a fool of himself, that he should take a honorable exit from power and go and nurse himself to good health and what have you. And you remember also that Mrs. Buhari had advised her husband not to give it a second try, and that if he was going to do so, he should count her out of those that will support that endeavor. So quite sincerely, General Obasanjo is merely articulating what many of the friends of President Buhari ought to have been telling him. Unfortunately, many of those people are self-seekers, self-servers, and self-opinionated people who are afraid to tell the president the truth. So quite sincerely, as I said, I think the nation should be grateful to Obasanjo for his intervention at a very critical period in the nation's history. Well,
you say they should be grateful. Giving his, I mean, if we cast our minds back, he supported the current president, supported the last two presidents as well. Already there are some saying, is he really the best person to be giving us this sort of statement at this time, now that it is not going well? What do you say, Phil?
No, I think General Obasanjo has his eyes on history. You remember way back when MKO Abiola was being touted as president of Nigeria, he said he was not the Messiah that we were seeking. And his warning to President Jonathan to change his attitude in terms of governance was so critical and decisive, if you remember.
I do remember.
So it seems that General Obasanjo has done it again because he has ventilated the grievances and frustrations of many Nigerians over the last 2.5 years.
So if you were to look at this, some are saying, is this counsel? Is this advice? Is it a prophecy? Or where would you put it?
No, I don't think Obasanjo sees himself as a prophet. He's saying, looking at what is happening in the country today, that Buhari is best advised not to have a second bite of the apple, that the best thing for him to do is to take a dignified exit from power and let Nigeria decide its future. So there are so many candidates for the job of president. Young people are asking for a young president, the sort of thing that you saw George Weah, who, upon being sworn in, within a few hours, he had announced his cabinet. You don't want a situation of an alibi by a president who will plead that he has to take his time to take decisions. Nigerians are in a hurry, and they don't want a geriatric president who will be creating excuses for non-performance. I think that is the butt of the thrust of General Obasanjo's intervention at this point in time.
Okay, but just drawing you back again to the statement that you said some minutes ago concerning the president's wife. That might not have been exactly the way she said it. And in social media, there have been a number of tweets with a number of people talking about what she meant, how she intended it. Is it really fair to say that that is the way it was put?
Well, they can put all manner of spins on it. But you remember that President Buhari's retort when she was before Angela Merkel was that the statement by his wife should be ignored because she belongs to the kitchen and the other room. And I came here on this station to say that was an unfortunate retort because you don't disparage your spouse before a female chancellor of a country like Germany, a PhD in physics, who is running the show. So quite sincerely, Mrs. Buhari went to school, and then she has proper antecedents in terms of her family background. She knows what she's doing. And even on the social media, the sort of things she's putting out, they are informed and advised. So I will not really accept the twist or the spin that the commentators on social media have been putting on her doubts as to the wisdom or propriety of her husband running a second
Okay,
term.
just finally, Prof, let me just ask you finally, Prof, you were talking about him throwing his hat into the ring, looking at where the PDP is heading and looking where the APC is heading. What do you think he meant by this coalition for Nigeria, this good governance movement that he's talking about? What is he saying?
Well, my hunch is that, just like I said here 3 weeks ago when we were discussing the New Year's speech of the president, that both the APC and the PDP suffer from a legitimacy crisis. And because the two parties have not delivered, he's looking for a third way. And he's talking about women, he's talking about children, and we are aware of what you call the TIM, okay, a group of young people who want Nigeria to be weaned off the tentacles of both the APC and the PDP. So if Nigeria deserves a change, then of course we can't continue the way we've been doing things and expect a different consequence. That is the wisdom in the letter of General Obasanjo, in my own perspective.
Professor of International Law, Akin Oyebode, thank you so much for joining us, as always, on the News at 10 tonight. Thank you.
You are welcome.
The House of Representatives has voted for the change of the order of elections in the country. The lower chamber of the National Assembly is proposing that the National Assembly election should come first, followed by the governorship and the State Houses of Assembly elections, while the presidential election would come last. The House took the decision while considering the report on a bill to further amend the Electoral Act 2010. Now, the move comes barely 2 weeks after the Independent National Electoral Commission announced the dates for the 2019 general elections, scheduled the presidential and the National Assembly polls to hold first before the governorship and the Houses of Assembly elections.
The 2015 elections have come and gone, and to many political observers, it was an improvement to previous elections in the country. Some, however, believe there is room for further improvement.
This report has been circulated on
In the House of Representatives, lawmakers are considering some proposed amendments to the Electoral Act. The chairman of the committee says the proposed amendments seek to consolidate on the gains of the 2015 elections and address some of the gaps in the legal framework.
Our submissions that the legal framework on certain issues should be well settled ahead of the 2019 elections, such as the use of technological devices, Electoral Offences Commission, electronic voting, early and primaries.
The Deputy Speaker, who is presiding in the Committee of the Whole, then puts the proposed clauses to a vote.
Clause 1 carried.
At one point, a new clause is introduced.
Thank you that the election into the offices of the President and Vice President, Governor and Deputy Governor of the state, and to membership of the Senate and House of Representatives and legislative houses of each state of the Federation be held in the following order. A. National Assembly elections. B. Governor and State Houses of Assembly elections. And C. Presidential elections. As so moved.
Lawmakers appear eager to support the motion, and it is eventually passed.
Those in favor of the amendment say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
The lawmakers also amend Section 49, 52 and 63 of the Act, which gives the Independent National Electoral Commission the authorization to provide for the use of card readers or any other technology in the conduct of elections in the country. Once these amendments pass through third reading in the House, it will have to enjoy the support of the Senate before it can be sent to the President. Lanre Lasisi, Channels Television News.
The federal government has granted the head of civil service the approval for the restructuring of some government offices and agencies for effective service delivery. They include the Nigeria Immigration Service, Corporate Affairs Commission and the Pharmacists Council of Nigeria. The head of service of the Federation, Mrs. Winifred Oyebode, stated this at a press briefing in Abuja to appraise the performance of the head of service in 2017. When the News at 10 returns, Nigeria's Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, says federal government ready to partner international investors to boost the country's manufacturing sector. Do join us again.